when you go to a tournament, there's so many responsibilities as an athlete. It's not just, yes, it's walking through a tunnel and performing in front of thousands of people, but there's the way that you carry yourself. There's the fans that expect a lot from you in moments when you're down and maybe you haven't had a good match. So I think it's the presence, it's the press conferences, it's the sponsor visits. It takes a lot of people to make something happen, and just realizing that is extremely important. You hire the best people that you believe are going to get you to the top, but you pick up your bag and you go into center court and it's like you're on your own. It's your own thing. You control your wins and you control your losses. And at the end of the day, yes, everyone takes a little bit of responsibility, but I think that's the greatest thing about being the champion at the end of a tournament is you can carry that whole responsibility of being a winner. But the toughest part and the other side of it is a much darker, lonelier aspect of sport, is that you go back to your hotel room and everything is upon you.
I think that growth period that I had, I didn't have any siblings. It was just me, and I wasn't around my parents very often the first few years in America. So it was really me and the tennis racket and the ball and the coaches that were around me trying to make me a better tennis player. So it was an absolutely lonely time, and I had to deal with that, and I had to isolate. Like, I really did feel isolated from the rest. I think for me, happiness is really internal, and it's not something that is most of the time seen in photographs or told in words. I think there's something much deeper. Just on a human level, I think we're all faced we're faced against adversity, faced against tough things in our lives, family, our careers, relationships. And so I think happiness is, for me, like the simplicity of a feeling. It's not something that anyone will be able to say, oh, well, now I saw that she was happy. Of course, like the emotion of winning that match, that was amazing, and that was happiness, and that brought so much joy. I think you can't act that out. Like that's the way I really felt in that moment. A lot of things that are part of tennis can be measured by numbers, statistics and percentages and all that stuff. But I always tell him, like, if you take me to the gym, if you take all the players in the draw, take us to the gym and make us run on the treadmill, or do like a competition with squats, or give us weights, I can guarantee you I would be on the bottom of each list. Like, I did not grow up being the fastest or the strongest or the quickest mover around the court, but there were other intangibles that made me the player that I became. And I think it was an understanding of those weaknesses and knowing what I had to do, and that I could improve them, that if I worked harder, that if I set my mind on those weaknesses, that I could get better. I knew that there were players that could have been more talented than me, that could have been faster than me, that outnumbered me, but all that sometimes doesn't matter. You go out into the match and you don't need to be better than all the 120 players in the draw. It's only a matter of who you're playing against across the net that you have to be better than them. And so I think that's when I speak about will and the mindset that I had. I think that's what separated me from a lot of the players, is that I realized that. It was okay not to be the best at all those other things.
Specifically, word for word, I don't know, but don't judge me by my successes. Judge me by the times that I fell down and got back up again. They know that I will not just give them the match. Like, you can beat me, but I will not give it to you. Like, I will work for it, and that started at a young age. Like, I wasn't. Like, we talked about numbers. Like, I've never been the fastest, the strongest. I spent years watching, the French Open analysts before I won the French Open. The French Open commentators, after you had a champion there, speak about all the advantages someone that hits high balls and moves well and slides on the clay and has all these attributes that I just didn't have. Like, that was not my game. And those words were like, it was like a hamster wheel. It was like just going like rewind in my mind. And as I was working in the gym or on the court or on the clay courts leading up to the clay season, I think of that. And I wanted to find a way to show that my game was capable of improving in order to be a champion at that tournament. So, I think there are definitely things that you use as motivation. and they always change along your career.
I certainly don't leave that court and say, oh, I'm okay with this. Yeah, definitely not. And there are so many parts of the tournament and moments that I look back and I think, that it took a lot to get there. Like I know there's 50% of the things that you go through and the injuries that I've had since my comeback in April, sort of the ups and downs is just added to all of that. I came into the tournament with not a lot of matches. So although my expectations were low, you always have these expectations from yourself because you know what you're capable of, you know the tennis that you've produced there over the years, and you know you can, and you know everyone's watching and you want to, and so it adds to that extra pressure, which I love. But I wasn't satisfied, and I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be satisfied with a fourth round exit.
When you're deep in a match or you're deep in a third set, like so much is, you rely or I do, on my mind and what I believe is right in that moment and my instinct. And whether it's the repetition that I formed with all the years that I've played, or it's the discipline that I've formed, or it's just the experience that will kick in. Numbers are important and you must rely on them, but there are things that Andre Agassi had this quote, you don't have to be better than everyone else in the draw when you go out on the court. You have to be better than someone that's across the net. And whether that is at a very high level, whether that's at a low level, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You can't be great every single day. There's only a handful of times where I've gone on the court and felt like I did everything well. It's impossible. There's sometimes moments where I come off the court and have a tough loss, and I sit there in the locker room and I think, why? Why am I putting myself through this emotional? I went through the physical, training for it. I give everything I can, and then I'm just sitting here with no rewards. But then the next day I wake up and I want to get back on the court to improve. It's an internal feeling of I've gone through the shits, I've been through everything, and for myself, I really want to do this. I want to put in the work. I want to make my body strong. I want to make my mind strong. I've had an incredible team that has stuck with me for so many years, and I want to do it together.